We have breaking news from the Rangers organization. Head coach David Quinn has been let go. What led to the decision and who might replace him? We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, just mere moments ago, we had some breaking news from the Rangers organization. First reported by Larry Brooks of the New York Post, indicating that the Rangers have indeed fired head coach David Quinn and his entire staff except for goalie coach Benoit Allaire. So this is something that many people thought could happen. A lot of people put it like a 50-50 chance that Quinn returned or not. I thought, given the history between he and Drury, that maybe he would get to start next season but have a short leash. That's kind of where I was leaning towards. But as we know, the Rangers were conducting their exit interviews, and that's why owner James Dolan made it clear that why he wanted Drury hired first before we got to the end of the season, so that he could be a part of that and have a lot of information gathering to do from the team and the players. So they can really focus on the future here. And clearly, the information coming out of the exit interviews led them to believe that Quinn is not the guy to lead this team into the next stage of its rebuild. Now, of course, Quinn was hired early in the rebuild and was mainly hired to develop these players. And I think you could say that for the most part, there was a lot of good. I know there's Rangers fans I see on social media a lot that had their fair share of criticism as well and things they didn't like, but you did see a lot of growth amongst its younger players, and obviously he's not the guy, according to the Rangers, to take them to the next level. We know that owner James Dolan, it's slightly influenced, I think fair to say, by Glenn Sather, certainly felt the team in the rebuild was not moving fast enough in its level of success, and that they wanted to take this up a notch. So that's why I fully suspect there to be some significant player personnel changes over the offseason as well. We've talked about a potential Jack Eichel trade and so on. I think the Rangers are going to be extremely aggressive to take this to the next level. And getting a new coaching staff, I think it's only the beginning. But you have to think that this would not have been an easy move and choice for Chris Drury. I just kind of hope in a way that this was his decision and not heavily influenced by an irrational owner looking for real quick fixes here. Obviously, we would hope Drury, where he's just hired in this role, would have been given the final say. Obviously, he's got a lot of history with Quinn dating back to their days at Boston University. So, like I said, it's something that a lot of people thought he might get more of a chance with. But between pressure from ownership and his own opinions, clearly they felt differently. So I think Quinn still had, I believe, 2 years on his contract. I believe he was originally signed for 5 years when they hired him to join the Rangers as head coach and leave BU. So I'm not sure what's next for David Quinn or members of his staff that were let go today. I guess we'll have to remain to be seen on that front. But as far as who could replace him, well, there's certainly a lot of interesting names out there. I think it's probably really fair to say that they're going to want to hire an experienced coach and probably to some degree somebody who has, maybe even a Stanley Cup on their resume. Not necessarily. I don't think that's going to be like a absolute must, but they're definitely going to want an experienced coach who can take this team up a level, and probably wouldn't hurt if they've shown in the past that they could do that. Now, former Rangers bench boss that was just let go in Columbus, or mutually parted ways, I guess you could say, John Tortorella is available. He certainly had an interesting run in the Rangers organization before. I'd be curious to see how they feel about maybe bringing him back. I mean, you can't say he was fired in Columbus. He had an expiring contract, and he and the team decided it was best that they both go in a different direction, and I think that was a good and wise choice. I think based on where that team is at, where the roster was at, that it just wasn't a great fit anymore. But he's certainly one of the greatest coaches in that organization. Set a lot of records, and certainly, he's a polarizing guy. The guys who love him absolutely love him, and there's certainly ones that just don't mix well with Torts, and you can tell. Now, would he be a good fit in the Rangers organization the second time around? You got to think it's a real possibility. I mean, you look at Drury's run and what he might be connected to, who he might be, have past connections with, and Tortorella would be a guy you'd have to think would be on that list. You also look to a guy like maybe a Patrick Waugh. Now, Patrick Waugh doesn't have a ton of NHL experience in the coaching ranks and a ton of success. I mean, he was a former coach of the year, though. He was the coach in Colorado. I mean, he had one run There was obviously some failures, which led to him, departing, on not great terms compared to the success he had as well. But certainly he's an aggressive guy, a fiery guy, a unique guy that wouldn't be for everybody. And, we know that he's looking for NHL opportunities right now. And obviously he and Drury did play together in Colorado, so they would obviously know each other. Not to say that Drury's only going to hire somebody that he's worked with before. I don't think that's fair to say, but obviously you do see a lot of NHL jobs when there are connections and people that, they know them on a different level. So you get lots of other experience out there. Obviously, you've got Rick Tocchet that was just let go in Arizona. Not really sure he'd be a great fit there, but, he's certainly a very experienced guy, played in the league a long time, was an assistant coach and a head coach multiple times. You've got Bruce Boudreau. Not really sure he'd be the best fit there either, but still another really, heavily experienced coach. You've got Gerard Gallant out there. And obviously there could be more NHL coaches that, find themselves looking for work here in the short term. It's really hard to say if the coaching carousel is done or if it's going to keep going here. Obviously there's a fair bit of teams with their season that are already finished. And we've seen some of those coaches already be moved on from. And there's not a whole lot of teams that have games left to play, but there's still a few. Out of the ones that are left, I wouldn't think there would be very many, if at all, that would be potential. I mean, the one, I guess, X factor would be probably Travis Green in Vancouver. He's rumored to be re-signed, but still, I'm not sure he'd be a great fit for the Rangers either. And then, of course, you have other guys that are, current assistant coaches or currently in the NCAA that the Rangers would look at. I would think, though, that they're not going to want a brand new coach. I don't really see that being something that they go down here. I think they're going to, like I said, they're going to want experience, a winning pedigree. Obviously, winning at lower levels is probably something they're going to want to look at, and ideally, a good amount of NHL success too. Like I said, this team is on the cusp of going up a level out of the rebuild. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do, and obviously, there's lots of things here. So Drury's going to be the new president and GM. He's going to have a brand new coach and coaching staff, outside of the goalie coach, who has been there a long time and likely will be there as long as he wants to be, going from there. But we also had the Rangers did also announce a couple days ago, which I haven't mentioned in the video yet, about they extended Ryan Lindgren on a 3-year contract at $3 million per season. I think that's a pretty good deal. Obviously, he's a guy who's really earned an extension there and so should be a part of that decor for a long time. They've got a lot of solid young blue liners now. The next thing, I guess, we'll see. Obviously, there's going to be a head coaching search. It's been a very interesting year with the Rangers. I mean, they've certainly had their ups and downs. They had, some COVID issues, especially the coaching staff. We saw the Tom Wilson situation at the end of the season. So what else will the Rangers do? It's hard to say. I do have no doubts that they will certainly at least be inquiring on the Eichel situation. And there's lots of other things as well. I mean, they don't have a ton of things to look after internally. There's going to have some guys that are going to getting close to contract extensions, obviously, that they're going to have to consider. A guy like Mika Zibanejad, going to be going into the final year of his deal. Adam Fox is after breakout years. He's going to need a contract soon. They have to factor in all these cap gymnastics here, see who's a part of the solution moving forward, and see what they can do. So I expect Chris Drury and the Rangers to be extremely busy, and they're going to be making a lot of the news headlines here as we approach this NHL offseason. So let me know your thoughts on the David Quinn firing from the Rangers organization. Give me your best bets on who you feel would be a good NHL coach to replace him. Do you agree with me that it's going to be an experienced head coach? And let me know who that is in the comments and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news from around all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.